Well, today, Virgin Airlines has taken the decision and chosen to enter into voluntary administration. It's a difficult day for Virgin's 10,000 employees. It's a difficult day for their customers. It's a difficult day indeed for their suppliers. Their many suppliers, who number about 6,000, and we acknowledge that. We recognise those people, and certainly I watched some of the heartfelt comments made by some of their baggage handlers, some of their cabin crew, and I feel for them. We really do. As a government, we understand the complexity of this situation. We also understand that, as Virgin has said, this is a way out to recapitalise. There is a path forward under voluntary administration to recapitalise and restructure their business, and this is important. We also acknowledge the fact that the federal government has provided so far during COVID-19 more than $1.28 billion of assistance, a lot of which Virgin has been able to access. Virgin has been able to access the initial March 18 announcement, where $715 million was put on the table as way of waiving fees when it comes to fuel excise, Air Services Australia charges and such things as security screening. And Virgin CEO Paul Scurrah told me that Virgin has benefited to the tune of tens of millions of dollars because of that announcement, and it's backdating to 1 February. And of course, those fees continue to be waived whilst there are planes in the sky, and there are, and that is thanks to our March 28 announcement when I announced $198 million for regional air routes to be continued to the 138 centres across regional Australia, and Virgin Australia flies to many of those destinations, and Virgin are taking part in those continued regional routes. And of course, last week I announced $165 million to ensure that there is a domestic trunk route service in Australia, and of course Virgin are part of that too, and we thank them for that. We thank them for continuing to put planes in the sky to enable people to travel between capital cities and to key regional destinations. Of course, the April 1 announcement where we decided that there would be $110 million spent on freight assistance, and Virgin are taking part in that, and we thank them for that. And of course the repatriation flights, where we're getting Australians who are abroad for any number of reasons, either they're holidaying or they're visiting, or they indeed, some of them live overseas, and the Prime Minister has said that they need to come home. Well, Virgin are helping take part in those repatriation flights, and we thank them for that. There is a way forward for Virgin, and of course the JobKeeper payments, $130 billion that the federal government is providing to keep people in jobs, to keep supporting jobs across all sectors, all industries, all businesses. Virgin can continue to participate in the JobKeeper through voluntary administration. We want to see a two-airline sector coming out of COVID-19. It has been a dreadful situation. We understand, we acknowledge that, and we want to see Virgin come out the other side. Virgin have said that in their statement this morning. We acknowledge it's a difficult day for Virgin. We will continue to work with Virgin, with the voluntary administrators to get the best outcomes. I'd like the Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg, to add to those remarks.
Well, thank you, Deputy Prime Minister. As the Deputy Prime Minister just said, the Board of Virgin Australia has chosen to put the company into voluntary administration. This is not liquidation. This is not Ansett. This is not the end of the airline. Rather, as the company itself has said in its statement, this is an opportunity to recapitalise and for Virgin to come out stronger on the other side of the coronavirus crisis. Virgin Australia is a very good airline, performing a very important role. And this is a difficult day for its staff, for its suppliers, and for the aviation sector more broadly. But the government was not going to bail out 5 large foreign shareholders with deep pockets who together own 90% of this airline. As the Deputy Prime Minister has said, we will continue to provide support, as we have, to the aviation sector, and the JobKeeper package will continue to be available to Virgin employees. The government's objective is to see 2 commercially viable airlines operating domestically in Australia. This will be good for jobs, it will be good for competition, it will be good for lower prices, and it will be good for the Australian economy more broadly. Today we note the announcement by the company that the administrator will be Deloitte's. Well, today the government announces that Mr Nicolas More, the former CEO of Macquarie, someone very well experienced in commercial matters, will engage with the administrator on behalf of the government together with the Treasury and Finance teams in support. Our objective is a market-led solution. Our objective is 2 commercially viable major domestic airlines operating in Australia, and we will work constructively with Deloitte's through Nicolas More and our Treasury and Finance teams from here.
By either of you, how confident are you that there will be a market solution, that there is a sufficient appetite amongst these private equity investors and so forth to pick up this airline?
Well, I can refer to the statement itself from the company, where it's referred to a number of parties being interested. I think it's very serious, and it goes back to our earlier points, which is Virgin Australia is a very good airline, performing a very important task. And we want to see 2 airlines continue, and we've already had discussions with the ACCC to ensure that they strongly enforce our competition law so that we can have 2 commercially viable airlines operating on domestic routes here in Australia. The role of the competition regulator, the ACCC, will be very important, and we've already started to have those discussions. So we will continue to engage constructively with the administrator, but I do believe there is a lot of significant interest from commercial parties.
The Virgin being controlled by a Chinese state-owned entity?
Look, I don't comment on foreign investment matters either broadly or specifically, to be honest. We obviously have a strong national interest test, and as you know, in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, we have announced the temporary removal of those thresholds for foreign investment, which means that there will be extra scrutiny on any foreign investment proposal, and I would wait to consider any proposal on its merits without making any further comment than that. Andrew.
I mean, he's almost like a government emissary. So what are his riding instructions, and the fact that you have sent him in to act in this role, whatever it is that suggestive of there being some sort of government intervention in weeks ahead?
Well, Andrew, as you know, the airline business is important to the economy, and these matters of voluntary administration are complex. But it's also a well-known path for companies to restructure and to recapitalise and to come out stronger on the other side. And cases in point are Channel 10, Darrell Lea, and other companies have also gone through the voluntary administration process. So we have engaged Nicolas More in that process to talk to the parties, and in particular to talk to the administrator, Deloitte's, with a view to ensuring that we continue to maintain 2 airlines on those domestic routes here in Australia, but also a market-led solution is our preference. John.
Oh, sorry. Just following up Andrew's question about the sort of role that Nicolas More would play. He's obviously experienced in restructuring. Also, when he was chair of Macquarie, CEO of Macquarie, they had stakes in airport business as well. Could you just flesh out a little bit more how you see his role playing out in this and why the government's chosen him?
Well, Nicolas More is someone who's very well respected for his tenure at Macquarie, 10 years in the role, but also he brings to the table specific skills and expertise which will be complementary to the ones that we have within Treasury and Finance, and obviously he'll be working with our team to ensure that the national interest is advanced, and he will be having that engagement with the administrator Deloitte. And as you could imagine, there's lots of issues to work through and to discuss, and complex commercial matters, and it is best done with his assistance.
If the market solution weren't to be found, would the second option then be to facilitate the entry into the market of another carrier?
Well, again, we're not going to speculate on what happens in the weeks and months ahead. What we do know is that the voluntary administration process with Deloitte as the administrator is a pathway forward. Michael and I have both referred to the company statement itself as saying that they are hopeful of working through their challenges, dealing with the restructuring of their business and the refinancing of their business with a view to coming out stronger on the other side.
To being buyer of last resort, and is it fair to say that the Virgin in the future will be a smaller operation, therefore less jobs, less employment in Australia?
Well, our goal is obviously to see as many people employed as possible, and obviously to see strong competition, and to see two major commercial operators. But as for the government's role, what we have said is we'll engage with the administrator, and our preference is for a market-led solution. There is significant interest out there from the market, and let's wait and see that process.
Is the government willing to consider stepping in as a buyer?
We're not playing we're not playing the game of contemplating this or that. What we are saying is that there's a process now where you have an administrator appointed by the company to work through the issues with the creditors and the other key stakeholders, and we will have Nicolas More engaging specifically with the administrator in that context.
This hasn't been an easy time for any airlines. This hasn't been an easy time for any player in the aviation sector, and the aviation sector always runs on tight margins. It's a very volatile sector. It's a sector that anyone from regional Australia, and I certainly come from regional Australia, knows how important Virgin knows how important our regional airlines are, and we want two strong, commercially viable airlines, major airlines, operating in and around Australia. It's essential, and we'll certainly follow the advice of Nicolas More, and we want to make sure that we keep as many people in jobs as possible. It's a difficult day for them, and we empathise with each and every one of those 10,000 employees of Virgin, and we'll do what we can to retain as many, if not all, of their jobs.
Will you release publicly your instructions to Nicolas More?
Well, again, they're cabinet in confidence discussions, but Nicolas More, as you could appreciate, is well experienced for this role, and the government has formally engaged him and has been talked to him about this role.
His number one job is to stop liquidation. Is that fair to say?
His number one job is to engage constructively with the administrator, with the goal of seeing in Australia two major commercial airlines operating in our domestic routes. That's our objective. That will be good news for competition, that will be good news for jobs, that will be good news for lower prices, and that will be good news for the economy overall.
Is Deloitte happy with Mr Moore being asked to join?
Sorry?
Is Deloitte okay with Nicolas More being involved?
We haven't had that discussion with Deloitte. We haven't had that discussion with the company. The government has announced today the appointment of Nicolas More, and he will go forward in that task.
Is there any circumstance, Treasurer, where the government will take an equity stake in Virgin?
Again, I've said previously that we're not in the business of owning airlines. Paul Keating sold off Qantas, as you know, 27 years ago. What we are, though, in the business of is supporting jobs, and we've done that through the JobKeeper package and the many other initiatives that we have announced. But the Morrison government is absolutely focused on ensuring we have a competitive aviation sector and ensuring that we continue to do what is necessary in this difficult time to get the country to the other side.
Just on another matter, did you happen to catch Malcolm Turnbull's interview last night, and what do you think about the bombs he's throwing at the government?
Again, I did watch it. I'm sure like many other people did, but our focus is on the task at hand. I've seen a lot of the commentary in recent days. I've decided not to engage in it. So too, my colleagues have taken the same decision. What we are focused on is helping the Australian people preserve jobs, save lives and livelihoods, and get to the other side.
Barnaby Joyce in the last couple of days had a bit of a run in the top paddock on this app, this contact tracing. What's your personal view on the app? Are you going to download it, and what would your message be to others?
Download it. My wife will download it. Our 3 children, Georgina, Alexandra and Nicholas, will all download it. It's important. It's going to save lives. It's going to protect livelihoods. I tell you what, I'd just as soon get my phone out, download an app. It's going to take a couple of minutes, if that. Download the app and make sure that if I come in contact with somebody who had coronavirus, then all the necessary precautions take place. I'd much sooner download an app than 2 months from now be lying in an ICU bed, be lying in a palliative care bed and wondering why I didn't download an app. Pretty simple.
Do you want Barnaby Joyce to return to the bottom paddock?
Barnaby Joyce is doing hard work for the people of New England. As always.
Treasurer, if Virgin is restructured and into a new corporate entity, or someone else buys it, for example, how would that potentially impact the JobKeeper payments if it's not the current Virgin entity? Would you still make those available to some new entity that might take it over? Because it could be quite complex.
Again, you're speculating on a scenario that hasn't eventuated. What I can tell you is that the JobKeeper package is available to employees who are with a business that is going through a voluntary administration process, and that is the case here. Thank you.
Thank you.